I'm running out of whiskey, so
Oh, a drunk podcast.
I'm kind of thinking, should I finish this really quick now and then get another glass before we start?
While we're
Or do
recording.
I? Well, I mean, I could just. Actually, I'm gonna go get the bottle. Be right back.
Oh, dude. Welcome to Hardcast, where we use our psiot power of criticism to discuss Harbinger, Volume 1. My name is Humphrey.
And my name is Chris.
Well, Chris, so this was the second property of Valiant that you got to read. I'd just like to know your immediate thoughts of it after having finished reading it.
Second property of Valiant.
Well, in terms of when it was released. You know,
Oh, okay,
Exo Man of
okay.
War, is like their first character slash
Okay,
property.
so you mean like second chronologically?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Uh, wow. What did I think about this one? It started off again. It started off in the past. It started off as a history thing, and I was like, "Yes, this is awesome. Is this going to be a reoccurring theme in all these Valiant comics that it always starts off in some mystical past, or I don't know. I just maybe it is. Whatever the third one is, maybe that's going to start too. I'm going to be very disappointed if it doesn't. Um, so in itself, the comic, I didn't like it that much
All right.
because I thought it was very um, typical. There was nothing new to the story.
All right.
It was just a dude learning about his powers, being all damaged and hurt and whiny, and then some people try to teach him how to do it, but then they turn out to be evil, and then he tries to destroy them, but I don't know if we're really sure that they're evil, like if everyone there is evil or not, and it just felt very yeah, typical, just run of the mill superhero story.
All right. Well, that's fair. So, I mean, what's it called? That's one way of looking at it.
Again, it's not that it wasn't bad. I mean, I wouldn't say that it was bad. I don't like saying that anything's ever bad. It's just for me personally, I've read this story 1,000 times before. You know, even that whole um the whole school situations felt
Hmm.
very X-Men-y, you know?
So that's actually something I wanted to bring up because even Valiant themselves, when they try to pitch Harbinger to people,
Yeah.
so they basically always use X-Men as a shorthand for it. So
Right.
it's basically X-Men, but with a little bit more of an edge and quote unquote more realistic setting.
Yeah. Again, I kind of feel bad because every time I'm reading these comics, I always compare it to like a Marvel or DC comic. And I think one of the main reasons for this is, I mean, you know how in comics history there are always characters who have been copied off of other characters or have been kind of inspired at the same time. I mean,
Oh yeah.
like Aquaman and Namor and stuff like that. But normally you don't really know who came first.
Well, yeah, they're
You know,
very old characters, and like, oh well, what are the odds of someone coming up with a similar character?
exactly. And it's kind of like you always assume, well, this was at a time, they came out in the 20s, one came in like 21, one came out in 22, that kind of thing. So you don't really think about it. You're just like, oh yeah, they came out in the 20s, whatever. They're both staples of this, uh, this company. But with Valiant, I think one of the problems here is that, at least as a comic book fan, I know pretty much all the mainstream um, characters from both companies. Which means if now someone like Valiant comes along with a new book, and then it's very similar to, like in this example, very similar to X-Men, my immediate thought is like, well, they just ripped off X-Men.
So yeah, no, that's definitely an what's called a way you can look at it in that sense. So I mean, I don't think you're wrong since they themselves use X-Men as a shorthand.
Right. Yeah.
So, but something that has been brought up a lot that I've seen in some how should one say articles or discussions regarding Harbinger is that it's a bit of a slight deconstruction of at least the main concept of X-Men. If you were to,
What do you mean?
well, if you were to look at it in a way, you have the school, the school for gifted youngsters.
Yeah. The Harbinger program.
Exactly.
Or whatever it's called.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Harbinger Foundation, led by this benign psychic, or supposedly benign.
Yeah.
But in a sense, it kind of deconstructs the idea. I mean, of course, we know, thanks to our omniscience when reading these, Marvel comics, that we know that Professor X, Charles Xavier, is a good guy. So we know that, he actually does mean the best about, collecting all these superpowered children to work for him, like to train under him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, in a sense, sending them off into these, like, dangerous missions to use their powers for good. But here, they're having then Toyo Harada, maybe having him be, a big businessman, who's actually using his powers to further his agenda, and using these students, just some as young children, and then making them do things, and in this cult of personality regarding him.
Well, is he actually has it been clear that he was actually a bad guy?
Well, that's another question I had for you. Are his actions what's your stance on Harada? Based on his actions and his motivations.
Well, honestly, I was a little bit confused during the reading of this. I mean, it got very complicated very quickly, and I wasn't really sure who I was supposed to be rooting for. So, I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm rooting for the main character, even though I didn't really like him as a character either.
So join the club.
Yeah, right. But I was reading it, and I was just like, okay, so yeah, this guy's the main character. He's supposed to be the guy on the right. Yeah, okay, they killed his friend. That's a dick move, But it felt, especially with that traitor at the end. What was it like Lightbringer?
Livewire.
Livewire, Lightbringer. What the hell? Livewire. I was completely confused with that.
Oh, why she did it?
When she started shooting him, I was like, wait, what? Like, at this point, I was just like, I was kind of almost giving up on the book. Like, I started skipping speech bubbles. That point when it just get like, you're kind of feeling, oh God, I don't really want to read this, but I kind of want to get to the next point where it slows down a little bit again. Like when there's just a block of exposition, it's just like way too much text, so to speak. You just kind of start, kind of scanning the bubbles to kind of get the gist of everything. I mean, I don't know if you do that, but I do that quite a bit.
No, I do that. I do that too. Yeah. If it's because I've been reading for a long time, or the story itself has kind of started getting a bit, I don't really care right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, I kind of felt bad for doing it because, especially because we're talking about it now. So I did go back and reread some of the texts again, but it was just so, like, I was trying to understand what was going on, but it was just too much happening at the same time. Because again, you had this whole faith thing, which I want to get into later, and then you had the main guy. What was his name?
Peter Stanchek.
Peter, yeah. Peter. His whole thing happening, and then the organization coming after him. And then there's a traitor in the organization. Then there's that bleeding monk, which is totally awesome. I mean, I really like the idea of it, but it's just
a bleeding monk who bleeds eternally. How does that work physics-wise? I mean, it has to end at some point, right?
Right.
A nice visual.
It is a very nice visual. But again, it's just one of those things where it was just too much, and I think one of the problems was that they were introducing characters very quickly, and I kind of lost the overview of who these characters were.
And who?
Like they introduced this woman, who came to pick up Peter, and it was supposed to be this, they had a whole like text of who this person was, and they had another text for the guy who was driving the van. And I was just like, wait, who's this? And then they come up again like later in like the third or fourth issue, and I have no idea anymore who they are or that they were the people who were in the truck. I mean, good with the lady. It was obvious because they literally said, "This is the woman who picked you up in the van." But still, it was just one of those things where everything was just happening so quickly. I was like, wait, what? Who's this? Is this person important now? Do I need to remember who this is? And then they disappear for 3 issues, and then suddenly they're there again. And like, oh, okay, this person's here, and yeah.
All right, that's a very fair point, but that is again another, I think, comparison with the X-Men in a sense, and the fact that this is quote unquote a team book. And this isn't about it's not called Peter Stanchek. It's called Harbinger, so it is this kind of like group concept.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the notes that I wrote was, wait, so she's the Harbinger? And I think this had to do with the fact that I wrote this last night when I was reading. There was that woman who came in to talk to the to the bleeding monk, and he says something like, "Yes, Harbinger, I see your future."
A woman? No, 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 no. That's what's called. That was Toyo Harada when he was young.
What?
The very first page, right? Like the very first segment, like in the history flashback.
Oh shit! I thought that was a woman.
Well, the art style is kind of weird at times, but
sometimes it looks like she has boobs.
So yeah, well, if you look in let's see here.
Like on page 10, when you see the bleeding monk for the first time, when she's standing in that cave.
Yeah, but if you look,
she has boobs.
Yeah, but if you look on the page prior, in the second panel, do you see a little text box there?
Well, yeah. Again, Toyo can be a girl's name too.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, again, I know who he is, so the name immediately has meaning.
I didn't know who he is, so I just saw Toyo, and I mean, I don't know if Toyo is a man's name or a girl's name. I mean, I'm not Japanese, and I don't really have the feeling of what a girl's name or a boy's name is. I mean, for me, I thought, okay, that's a girl, and by the time I had read, because again, there was a day between the first chapter and the second chapter, I had totally forgotten who Toyo was. And I guess by the time that dog appeared and said that he was Toyo, I guess that was still in the first chapter. Yeah, I had no idea who that was, because it was a dog. Because again, he looks so different. I don't know. For me, it was just confusing. There was, again, this is the thing. There's too many characters, too many things happening. No idea.
Oh no, that's fair. These are kind of the things that it's nice to discuss. Just this, not just like what happens, but does it happen understandably? Does it make sense how it's portrayed? So no, I mean, it seems like there was some confusion there. You also missed the last time. You missed the whole point that mentioned that there were years on the Vine ship on Exo Manowar.
Yeah, true. I guess I just don't focus enough. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is. I always do find that a bit cheap. Not cheap. I mean, it gives the information across.
Yeah.
But oh right, crap. Who do we know who this is supposed to be? I put a little text box next to them.
Yeah.
Yes, all the important exposition in little text boxes.
Exactly. But again, maybe that is also just something that comes from the fact that I don't really read comics as much anymore. I mean, now I'm reading more because we're doing this whole podcast, but for the longest time I hadn't read comic for how many years has it been now, really, that I've been sat down and actually read a comic daily or even weekly. So maybe that's the issue there, is that I need to get into reading comics again and picking up on these little things.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not. I've heard a lot of people on what's called. A lot of people on the podcast who mention that also if they maybe missed a part, they usually mention that they reread it and then they understood.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah,
is
maybe I should start doing that. Yeah.
yeah, but it is no, but you didn't even notice most of the time that there was a text box. Most they
Yeah.
tend to blend a little bit more, like on like this example with Toyo Harada. You know, it is a black text box, you know, and it kind of blends in a little easier.
No, well, I did read it. I mean, again, the thing is, I read it, but I don't think I registered, okay, Toya Harada name registered this guy. You know, because the problem is, I think the problem is in then the next time we see him when he's in that um in the business meeting,
Hmm.
I never understood that that is now Toya Harada. Because there, and now I'm looking at it, there is no direct um link, like anyone saying this is Mr. Harada, this is Toya
Well,
Harada.
in the last panel, you do have this guy mentioning the percentage across Europe and the U.S., Mr. Harada.
Yeah, but still, it's just one of these things where, Mr. Harada, sure,
No,
who is that? I don't know. It just feels a little bit confusing because again, they're in a meeting room. They're talking. There's a TV saying Harada as well. It's yeah. It's just I don't know. I just feel it's somehow very confusing with you know creating all these characters. I mean, sometimes it feels sometimes better if they did it like in manga where they have a character sheet at the beginning.
yeah, yes. To
Yeah,
here you go.
yeah, like you have the names of the characters and portraits. So it'd be like, okay, this is this guy, this is who he is, this
Their
is
blood
like all these
type.
important characters. Yeah, and then you're just kind of like, oh, okay, these are the people. Now I can get into this because how am I supposed? Yeah, I don't know. But we can move on because now
Yes.
we're basically just
Yeah, no,
moving,
this
going
go.
around in a circle.
So, but I have to
But yeah,
ask because this is something that's brought up a lot of, especially new readers into Valiant, regarding Peter and Chris and what he did to her.
yeah, okay.
So I'm assuming this is one of the reasons also why you weren't so fond of him.
Um,
And for context, it's very heavily implied that Peter used the mind control. Well, I mean, it's obvious that he used mind control to make Chris love him, and
yeah,
it's
but he
very
basically
heavily
raped her.
implied. Yeah, it's very heavily implied that he did rape her in this stand or this state.
Yeah.
Again, it's not explicit, but pretty heavily
Well,
implied.
well, let's say he had sex with her. He had consensual sex with her in that state,
Oh no, I'm not
but
saying.
not in her normal
Oh no,
state.
I'm not saying.
Because
I'm not arguing if it's rape or not in that sense.
yeah,
What I'm
because it
saying
is.
is,
It is.
what I'm
It
saying
is
is,
rape.
did he have sex with her at all? Because all we're seeing is, we see a kiss, which is, wrong anyways,
Yeah.
and then we see them kind of just sleeping next to each other in that house. Again,
Yeah, and I guess
it's
I guess I guess the fact that she's not, I mean, she's not naked. Actually, if you look at the panel, she's still wearing pants, so maybe he actually didn't they didn't have sex.
yeah. Again, not saying that it's I mean, it's still awful, and when she gets upset with him, I think the reaction would have been the same either way, because
Yeah,
brainwashing is a terrible sense of invasion of privacy, and
of course, yeah.
but
Well, here's my thoughts. And I actually wrote on this because this is the point where my first reaction was, wow, what a douchebag. But okay, so Peter is 18 at this time,
yes. Well, we can't have,
and he's
young people having sex on the screen.
right, or allegedly having sex. Um, the problem here is, so I'm kind of assuming he has the emotional maturity of a 15 to 16-year-old. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because of his whole being in a psychiatric hospital and all that kind of stuff. Stunted emotional growth. He doesn't know how to you know emotionally connect with people. He has no idea how to have these personal relationships. As we see throughout the rest of the comic, he has one friend, and otherwise he doesn't have a good way of connecting people. He has no social skills. And while yes, what he did was wrong, completely wrong, should never be done. I understand it because, you know, I remember back when I was like a, you know, 14, 15-year-old kind of for the first time coming up with these emotions and kind of being all like, oh God, what are girls and why do I have these feelings and I don't know what to do with these feelings and because you kind of you don't know what to do to get girls to want to kiss you, but you kind of want them to kiss you anyway because you have this instinct that you're kind of like, I need to, but you don't know how to release it. So, you masturbate every night, but you can't really, that doesn't help that much, maybe for the night, but not really. And, it's kind of one of those things where you get to this point where you're so desperate. And I think every single boy, like, and it's horrible, but I think that every single boy, 14 to 15, at 16, maybe even up until they're 30, if they had this power, they would do the exact same thing.
Well, what I'm getting from this is not, again, you're not condoning his actions, saying they're like right.
Not at all.
But in storytelling, like in terms of the story, the character, the tone, it feels like, well, this actually seems like what could happen in this scenario.
It's realistic in the sense of, okay, a guy with this emotional age, this emotional maturity, with the feelings that he has, with the powers that he has, it seems smart that he does it. I mean, yeah, he does feel bad for it at the end, when he then releases her from the mind control. You can see it in his face. He knows that it was wrong that he did what he did. Still, of course, doesn't excuse that he did it. But still, it's, it's something that you do in the kind of the act of the moment because he's been thinking about her for years. He wants her. So he's just like, you know what? I'll do it. And to be honest, he's done a lot of very horrible things as well. He made this one guy forget all of his thought, Tull or whatever his name is.
Tull, yeah. Well, they were shooting after them and his friends.
But still, he basically, he could have killed him, but instead he makes him forget everything. That's pretty horrible too. Lets him stay as a shell of a man. And then of course he kills a lot of people. He kills a lot of police officers or army people or whoever they are. He's a dick. He's a big asshole. And I mean, yeah, he's been tortured. He's had a horrible life and all that stuff. But it doesn't really matter what has happened to him. It doesn't really excuse what he does.
So no, definitely. But personally, to me, because again, you're sharing the same opinion that a lot of people have with Harbinger, that the protagonist, so Peter Stanchik, isn't very likable.
No, not at all.
And I don't know, for me, in a sense, it's one of those things where on its own, I agree. Like, in the sense that, yeah, that's not a likable character.
Not at all.
But I feel simply compared to a lot of how a lot of other characters are portrayed in these kinds of stories. You have the little save the cat moments, and they're still kind of like deep down, that good person.
Yeah, but I kind of he hasn't even had a cat.
But that's what I mean. Moment. But I kind of like that because for me it becomes more about like all right, well, I'm curious what's going to happen here. We have, we have this super powerful Japanese man with a god complex. And this, bratty teen who, has way too much power than he knows what to do with. So I'm kind of feeling that's an interesting kind of showdown between these two. And also, in a sense, I'm kind of not so curious about... I'm not like thinking, oh, I hope Peter finds someone who truly loves him, or... I'm like, yeah. I'm curious what's going to happen between these two.
I guess, but I mean, the problem is just that Peter is just so unlikable that I have no reason to root for him. I don't want to follow him. I don't feel invested in his story. So, there's nothing really pushing me to pick up the next book. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't read the next issue. Like I wouldn't have even read issue 2 of this story.
So if you had just picked up the first...
Yeah, because I mean, the cover of issue 1 is great because you immediately know what his power is. You know everything. It's an amazing cover. But so I would have definitely picked it up when it came out. Like if Valiant came out and said, yeah, the second issue or the second story or the second character from Valiant is coming out, check it out. I'd be, yeah, sure, I'm going to check it out, especially after what you did with the Exo Manowar. I would read it and be like, this is not for me. The only problem now is that the third character to come out, or the third story to come out, I'm not sure if I would be like, I probably had read the second Exo Manowar and kind of regained my trust in Valiant a little bit more, so that I might have checked out the third one depending on what the cover is. So, I mean, when I find out tonight or after the podcast what the third book will be, I can then say next time whether or not I would have read or picked up the third story or not. But still, it's just one of these things. This comic, this issue just kind of ruined it for me for a while.
Oh wow, okay. Well, that's very interesting to hear. So, but then you're talking about likable characters as well, and you mentioned you wanted to talk about this as well. Thoughts on Faith?
I'm gonna make a lot of enemies, I think, because I don't like her.
So yeah, that's fine. So, but why?
Because she's fat. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. My problem with her is just we don't. There's nothing about her except for that she's perky.
All right.
So far, I mean, I don't know. I felt very weird, kind of reading her parts, and I was kind of happy that there wasn't a lot of her in this comic, because as soon as I saw her in the end of I guess was it volume 3?
Yeah, issue 3. Yeah.
Yeah, or issue 3. Yeah, I was like, crap! Is the next story going to be full of her? And even then, just like reading the text conversations there, I immediately realized, okay, so she's a nerd. I don't know. It's just, it felt kind of weird. And again, I didn't really know what was happening. She was going on this date with this guy who I guess turned out to be one of the guys from the Harbinger project. And, she just wants to be this hero. And yeah, that's fine. That's I guess any of us nerds would be like that. If you or I ever got a chance to be a superhero, I think, both of us would jump at the opportunity, right?
So, well, again, it's a lot for me personally. There would be a lot of like, okay, what's the powers? Does it hurt? What's the concept? What do I owe you? I mean, no, but we.
Yeah, a very realistic approach. But yeah, again, to be honest, she was basically a Chekhov's gun or some sense, or whatever the Chekhov's rescue is, or whatever it would be called. In some sense, she just existed in this comic to be the saving force at the end of the comic. And I guess these two will then hang out and become a team, and then try to get back at Harbinger for what they did to them.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much sums it up, the premise of the series.
Again, as I said, it's very generic. The comic is very generic. It's just your typical superhero story. You have the whole Wolverine thing. He's destroyed by an organization, and he goes back to destroy the organization.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, that's any kind of revenge story and all the like.
Exactly.
So, no, but that's again, that's a very fair point to look at it.
But to be honest, I have to add, I might be a little bit biased towards Faith because of all the advertising I've been getting on social media.
Yeah, but that's again a new series featuring her.
I know, but that's I think that has kind of put it in, because this whole Faith issue has been very dominant in my social media experience for the last couple of weeks or months even.
Yeah, I think it started in January.
So I've gotten a little bit negative about seeing her. Like every time I see her, I'm always like, oh God, this again. And again, I don't even know the character, but because she's been so strongly advertised on the site as being, and because I feel a little bit, it's been very aggressively advertised, that as soon as I saw her in the comic, I was just like, oh God, really?
Well, so you're kind of already tired of her without even having read her at all.
Exactly. So I think one of the things was as soon as I saw her, that was my reaction, like, oh shit, now I have to experience it.
Well, again,
But again,
the
yeah,
next volume she'll be fleshed out more, and I think she has some like nice moments there.
okay, well, we'll see.
So, but no, but it's fair. I mean, but I don't blame Valiant for advertising, the hell out of her because her series has been selling very well. I think even into the issue 3, because issue 1s usually sell well anyways.
Yeah.
But again, if they can get this kind of people are reacting well to this and negatively, but in a good way, it's getting traction.
Okay.
So I mean, again, I don't know how many they've printed, but they've mentioned that they've made a historical third or fourth printing.
Oh wow.
So yeah, well, again, it's one of those things where, well, how many did you print to start with?
Yeah, but I mean, if they have always been printing the same ones for their, like, if say they always print like 20,000, which probably might be too many per printing for every issue, no matter what, and they already go into the fourth printing, then that's pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm not trying to downplay it in that sense, but it's a big difference from. Well, again, like I said, 20,000. Well, let's print another 5,000.
Right.
Or
Well, I think there's a a set number what is called a printing.
mm. But again, I still haven't personally read those new Faith issues. I'm going to check them out later at some point. But yeah, again, I personally, out of Harbinger, I do feel she is the more interesting character, and that's not shown here in this first volume because she's not focused on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll check out later. I wanted to bring up this one more thing though. What's called Harbinger is the second movie, is the second property that's going to be made into a movie. So next year we're going to have a Bloodshot movie, and the year after that we're going to have Harbinger.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just curious. It's also kind of assumed because again, so many things can happen, from the get go with these movies.
Yeah.
But their plan right now is that they're going to have alternating movies of Bloodshot and Harbinger, 2 movies each, and then they're going to have this crossover movie. And that coincides with how the volumes work. Because with Bloodshot and Harbinger, they each had 2 volumes. And then they don't share a third volume. They have their own. But those 3 volumes coincide with this crossover event.
Okay.
So it's kind of rumored that each volume is gonna be 1 movie. But I'm not sure if, like reading this volume, does it for you to you? Does it feel like it has enough material for a movie? Assuming that yes, take just this, they probably adapt it in different ways and.
Yeah, honestly, I think they're gonna take out Faith.
Really?
I think so. I mean, especially in this. If we just assume that just this volume, will be a movie, I think they'd take out Faith.
But they'd have her in the next one, or
yeah, they probably have her in the next one because then she'll have like a bigger role, as you said. But I think here they're just going to maybe even make it even worse that instead of just harming the girl, he's gonna kill her when he tries to unleash her power. And but I do think that what I just read in volume 1 of Harbinger could be a movie. You have all the staples. I mean, obviously they'd flesh certain things out. The whole beginning could be pretty long. But when he gets to the school, it's going to be pretty much somewhat of a longer sequence where he, is there. Then there's going to be the bully character who then comes in. I mean, it could even be that one guy that was even the bully in this character, that one, instructor or whatever his name was. But I do think that this could be, because it has, if I look over these 5 issues, it is, has a story, a beginning, middle, and an end. It has a climax, with the um, with the death of his friend. Was it Jay?
So yo,
Joe. It has that climax with that, and then instead of, I guess, right there, it's just he goes back and he just destroys everything, just like in the comic, and he just kills people, and that's it. It's over. Yeah, it looks like a perfect movie right here, actually.
all right. Because my thought was how the ending feels a little too cliff. I mean, maybe it makes sense since they want to combine all these movies. But to me, it just feels very cliffhanger-ish, like without any sense of like it ends like really like right on the run. Like it
Well,
ends just as they kind of like, okay, we were just outside of the immediate danger, like
yeah. Well,
the end, or to be continued.
remember how Captain America: Winter Soldier ended.
Well, yeah, but that's like two. That's like almost like two stories in a way. Like the movie we watched ended with him crashing in the ocean,
Yeah,
and then the next stuff was just like the sequel hook in a way.
yeah. Well, the next stuff was just kind of like tying up the loose ends at the end. I mean, I still think that they could have ended the entire movie uh, on your left or on your right, on your left, on your left. Um, that could have ended the movie, and that's basically what it is here. Um, everything's destroyed, people are dying. Then Toyo starts talking, saying about how they broke the trust, blah blah blah, and then our heroes are saved. They're all happy. Everything's great. Peter's throwing up, and then black screen, and then it will fade back in. We'll see that the temple where the bleeding monk is empty. We'll start zooming out, and then we'll zoom out of the building. It will turn around, and then there's the monk walking along the bridge. Cut to black. Roll credits.
I suppose. I mean, again, they're not especially now that people are expecting these like big movie universes. I'm guessing that people won't be upset in that sense that like it kind of doesn't feel like a complete finished story, but like okay, it's the first part of a larger one.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, again, you're already talking about all these, um, like further comics or further comic book movies that Valiant has already planned.
Mm. Yeah, it's a five
So
picture deal they have with Sony.
exactly, so right there, they have a 5 picture deal, so we know going in. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like when I'm gonna go watch Captain America: Civil War, I'm not gonna say like this movie's gonna have an ending. It's gonna be like this is just gonna be a part of the beginning.
So,
That's the whole thing about these comic book movies. No one goes into the comic book movies anymore assuming that all the ends, all the loose ends are going to be tied up. So
so
I think that's not really a problem with this kind of comic.
that's fair. Oh no, I mean I think you're right in that sense.
I mean, I do feel that this would be a perfect adaptation. They could adapt this pretty well.
All right. Well, that's an interesting thing to hear, considering how you didn't really like it as a comic. But
Oh, I don't. I probably wouldn't even go watch the movie, but it would work.
all right, no, that's fair. So, all right,
It depends on who they get to play Peter.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Then I'd probably go watch it.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not. I mean, it's fun to do like fan castings, but
Yeah.
the only one I've heard that most people agree with is Ken Watanabe as Toyo Harada.
Well, he's probably not going to.
So, oh, how come?
Well, he has cancer.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he has stomach cancer.
Ugh. All right
Yeah.
then.
He is oh man. He was in so many movies that I love.
Well, hopefully he'll, not for the sake of the Valiant movie, but hopefully he'll pull through.
No, but yeah, I hope so too.
But otherwise, he'd be awesome, right? I mean, he looks the part.
Yeah, no, he totally.
Just having all the
Totally does.
CG effects around him, him floating around.
Yeah, but again, yeah, I think he might also already be too old for the role.
Oh, well, he has to be CG of most of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, considering they do have some like cool poses and stuff, but it is a
Yeah.
battle of the minds. It's not martial arts or.
But how much you want to bet if Hollywood would do it, they would add that.
At,
You know, well, they would add like, some sort of Matrix style
ah,
psychic battle, but then in what we see it as a kung fu battle in some sort of mystical room.
mm, I'd rather
Yeah.
not, but it could be. What I don't
And
want is what's called Dark's battles in Arrow.
what do you mean?
Well, just the last few episodes I've seen when he's fighting, it's again like the actual like fight scenes, fine, it's like the usual good choreography. But
Yeah.
but when he does the whole like strangle thing, I can't help but just see that it's just the actors.
Yeah.
I don't know, just it's fine. I get that they don't want to, it probably look cheesier with a bunch of like put on effects, lightning or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just kind of, I don't know, it feels almost like people playing pretend. Like
Yeah.
I've played things like that as a kid, even if it was Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah, of
But like,
course.
all right, I'm gonna stop you. Oh, and just this acting and flipping around. I'd love
Yeah.
them to have a proper budget to really have this kind of like the environment affected by them. Like really
Oh
everything
yeah.
rattling, pieces being torn off, like piece by piece,
Well,
everything
again,
rotating.
it's Hollywood, and these effects are getting cheaper and cheaper. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that you will get a correct, or you could get the right feeling from this comic. The effects will feel good, because I mean, even the worst comic book movies nowadays have the most amazing effects.
Oh yeah, I mean again, they only look bad in comparison to better ones, but even the bad is passable.
Yeah. But how much do you want to bet? I mean, right now, how much do you want to bet that Hidden Moon is going to be played by a white guy?
So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where because this is also one of those things where I feel a little bit Valiant has kind of toted that they're a lot more diverse in terms of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, the Exo Manowar so far, it's a white guy and what's it called. I don't think because he's from the past it counts.
No.
And what's called. And here we have the main character in Harbinger, a troubled teen, white teen.
Yep.
So, and again, you having faith, as a plus size, the woman, that's, kind of diverse in that sense. And again,
Yeah.
I'm again really hope the worst thing they could ever do is whitewash Harada. That
Oh
I would
yeah.
get royally pissed off at that.
Yeah. But again, it's also very typical again that the Japanese guy is the guy who is all into meditation and says like, does that kind of stuff. I mean, that was one of the first things I noticed. It's like, oh, okay.
The Asian
Here's
guy
the
is the
Japanese
mystical
guy.
guy.
Yeah, the Asian guy's the mystical guy.
But then it's kind
And
of,
also, yeah.
contrasted with this whole like very Western capitalist kind of setup. I mean, his
Yeah, well,
design. I mean, his suit. His costume is that suit.
yeah,
He's,
the $3,000 suit, like they said in that
yeah.
one panel.
Well, yeah, it's not like, okay, now that I'm fighting you, Stanjik, I'll put on my proper suit and puts on a samurai garb or something.
Oh God, that would be so horrible.
Well, again, it could look cool, but yeah, that's what I mean, though. That's not. I mean, he is Japanese, but he's not like. They're not trying to make that this sole thing. There, he's like, no, he's this capitalist businessman, and businessmen, dress like this.
Yeah. One thing I do think is a little bit cringeworthy, and this is just my opinion on Faith, is the whole thing, like, oh look, I don't want to sound negative, but I feel the irony is just so
That she
uh,
flies.
yeah.
I think
Like
that's a
why
very purposeful point.
I know, but still, I mean, because I keep on. I mean, obviously, this is also the problem with having this whole thing where they're kind of they're talking about how they're always the new. I don't again. I don't even know if if Valiant is the one who's kind of pushing this whole. It's new and it's we're starting anew. We're starting from zero, or if it's just you who's saying it. But because they're talking about how they're new, and I feel they're trying to push with Faith that they're being innovative. I have to keep on thinking about back to Kung Fu Soccer,
Mm.
where they also had the fat guy be Lightfoot,
Mm.
and I mean, in that it was okay because that was a goofy movie anyway. It was a stupid movie. I mean, it was a an awesome movie. It was just a ridiculous movie. It was stupid in its jokes and stuff like that. But with this, with a story where they're trying to be a little bit serious, to have then is like, look, it's the fat girl who can fly. It feels a little bit on the nose.
Again, I don't know. It's you'll see some other characters in the volume 2, which also kind of play around with a bit what their like body type is and what their power is.
Yeah.
So it might actually be a bit of a theme in the series now that I think about it.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not saying that she should be a like an earthbender or something like that, or something like that. She like jumps on the floor and then like earthquakes happen or some shit like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that, why does it have to be like the opposite of her? I mean, but again, if you say that it's like a typical thing, then that might be the power of this universe that they're in. That they just
you
always
get the opposite of what your body type suggests.
Well, not just body type, but what your personality suggests.
Well, that's not really an opposite in this. I mean, she's very perky, as you said.
No. Yeah. But I mean, like, just the who you are or who you look like or who you are, like what other people perceive you as, you are then the opposite. Like that's what you then what your power is. So someone who's like, for example, just to be like, have a really stupid example, someone who's very cold to everyone suddenly gets fire powers.
Well, I could see something like that working. So
why does that happen?
Well, I don't know. I had to reread it, but the fire part at least.
Oh God.
So, but yeah, no. But this isn't something I've really heard discussed. But if nothing else, it would suit their team, like the quote unquote good guys team.
Okay.
So
well, again, right now, I don't know what goal Harbinger is going for.
To save the world.
I don't know. Yeah, well, all they're saying is that they, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you what they're trying to do. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm kind of rooting for the other side because they're the only ones. They look like they're helping kids. They're getting them wrong, and all I know is that this guy Peter is in the wrong.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, sure, they killed a kid, but which is a dick move. But the thing is, they're an organization. Organizations have done horrible things. They're probably one of those organizations who believe that the means justify means justify the end.
So no, the ends justify means.
Yeah, the ends justify the means, right? And it depends on what the end is. So again, if they're going to save the world, then you got to crack a few eggs.
Oh, that's a nice term you're using there.
Why?
Well, where did they mention it? Because that's related to what they refer to their what Toyo refers to his not soldiers or so. Where was it?
His egg minions?
No, his egg breakers. So he says at some point here, I don't think I can find it right now.
Wait, in the in the volume that I just read?
Yeah.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, he mentions it at some point. I can't really find it now. But he
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he mentions no need to send the egg breakers.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was such a great...
Yes, I saw it. It's right here. Page 96.
There's
fourth panel.
There's no page numbers in the trade.
Okay.
Which issue?
I can... God, I don't know.
Oh, well...
issue... Damn. Issue 4. Like near the end when he's sitting in the room looking at the TV about the report on those medical medbots things. It says, I can have a unit of egg breakers ready to hunt him down in 5 minutes, sir.
There we go, yes.
Yeah, so, okay, well, didn't even...
No, but I think that's a good thing, though, that you thought of that yourself, and that's a term he uses, and that was in the original series as well.
Okay.
I don't know, I kind of like it because at first it kind of sounds a little goofy, but then the whole idea, well, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And if those eggs are little drugged out teens who got killed,
yeah,
then so be it. All right, I think this was an interesting discussion. It's a pity that it wasn't, your cup of tea. I'm hoping the volume 2 maybe, picks it up for you.
We'll see.
So,
yeah.
as well as the fact that later on there'll be a lot more of these kind of crossovers. So maybe with interactions with other characters might make them more interesting.
Okay.
So, but again, thank you for the discussion. So I was already like this.
That's fun.
Next time we'll be reading Bloodshot, Volume 1.
Oh, yeah.
So you've already read the Valiant, so you already have some kind of opinion on him.
Okay, I think I'm going to like it. I mean, looking at the panel right now.
Not a cover?
Again, the cover right now, I understand why one of my first opinions of this guy was that Japanese guy. Or that Japan guy.
Well, look at it more closely. Since you're talking about Japan.
Oh, it's the American flag. Oh, it's the American flag. I didn't even see the American flag at the bottom there. Oh, damn. That's art, man. That's art.
But the thing is, I mean, this is the whole discussion thing with it. I don't know. I'll discuss it when we're talking about this one, about the 90s Valiant and the whole Japan thing with him.
All right.
Because, yeah, it's not really... Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. But yes, this was the second episode of Hardcast, detailing Volume 1 of Harbinger. For more content from me and Chris, check out robotkeithblog.wordpress.com and follow us on Twitter at Humphrey_Erm and at _Aquarius.